What's up y'all, Jmaculate here. In today's video, I'll go over how to create a sidechain compression effect on the Dirtywave M8. Sidechaining is an audio mixing technique that uses the signal from one track or sound to decrease the volume or duck out another track or sound. So a common example would be using the kick drum to make loud melodic samples quieter or a bass quieter. And there's an easy way to do this on the M8 using a certain mod configuration. So let's check it out. There are many ways to create a sidechain effect on the M8. You can manually decrease the volume of the sounds you want ducked out at intervals where the other sound plays through effects commands or through other means. But the best way to achieve this is to automate the effect using the Trig envelope. To do this, navigate to the mod page of the instrument you want to duck out. From the instrument page, hold Shift and press up to go to the mod page. And from here, choose any free mod slot and change the mod type to 04 Trig envelope. Next, set the destination to volume and bring the amount down to 00. This will drop the volume of the target instrument all the way down to 0 when there's a note from the source instrument. And the source parameter controls what instrument will activate the ducking. I'll set this to my kick drum, instrument 01. Now whenever there's a MIDI note in the sequence that's tied to the kick drum instrument, this Rhodes sound will get ducked. You can hear it's already creating the ducking effect, and you can further tweak the effect by changing the other modulation parameters. Increasing the hold parameter will keep the volume at the amount you set for longer before fading back up to the original volume. So by keeping the target instrument muted or quieter for longer, the ducking effect becomes more pronounced. And you can change how long it takes for the instrument to fade back to the original volume by adjusting the decay parameter. Increasing this results in a slower fade to the original volume, and decreasing this makes the fade faster. And then there's the attack parameter. For this use case, adjusting this produces some undesirable behavior. Basically, it causes the instrument to play at the original volume when the source triggers the envelope, then fades the volume down to what you have the amount set to, then fades the volume back up at the rate you set with decay. So I recommend keeping this at 00. And then to circle back to the amount parameter, I set this to 00 to demonstrate the effect, which effectively mutes out the target instrument. But you'll probably want to have this at something like 20 or 30 so the target instrument still plays, just at a low volume. And one other parameter to circle back on is the source. In this example, I used one instrument, instrument 01 for the kick, to control when the Rhodes sample ducks. But you can also set the source as one of the 8 tracks by holding edit and pressing up until you get to the final track selections. If you choose one of these, any note in the phrases or chains on that track will cause the sound to be ducked. So this can be a useful configuration if you have multiple kick drum instruments or other sounds on a single track that you want to cut through, and you can set it all up from a single mod slot. So in this example, I used a few different kick drum instruments on track 2, and now when any one of them triggers, the Rhodes sample will duck. And there are some limitations to consider when using this technique as well. This is only ducking the volume of one instrument, the sampler instrument that has the Rhodes sample. If there are other instruments you want ducked by the source, you'll have to add this mod configuration to those instruments as well. So here I'll put this configuration on my bass instrument so that the bass ducks too when the kick plays. And if you set a sliced instrument as the source, then all the slices of the sample will trigger the envelope. This can be problematic if, for example, you're using a sliced drum break, because every slice that you add a note in the sequence for will cause the ducking effect, instead of just specific ones like the kick drum slices. So instead of just the kick drum ducking out the Rhodes and the bass, it's ducking it out every time the hi-hat and snare slices play as well. The best way to deal with this is to create a copy of the instrument, and then use one instrument for the notes that have kick slices, and the other instrument for all the other slices. You can quickly copy an instrument by holding Shift and then pressing Option. Then move to another instrument slot, and hold Shift and press Edit to paste the instrument. Now I need to edit the phrase with the slices so that the kick is coming from the copied instrument, instrument 06. And then I'll jump back to the mod page for the target instrument and change the source to this copied drum break instrument, instrument 06. Now the ducking is only getting activated by the instrument I'm using for the kick slices. So that's a quick way to set up the trigger envelope to act like a sidechain compressor. It's not a flawless system because it's using MIDI instead of audio to duck the signals, but you have plenty of options and configurations you can use to accommodate different setups, kind of like what I showed with the drum break. Well, that does it for this video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.